Hey everyone, it's Emily with Hearty Soul. Welcome back to the channel. This week we've been doing a lot of prep and getting ready for our farmers market that's due to start this next week. And this morning I was working through a lot of my inventory and trying to get things ready and packed up for this next week because I know it's going to be a wild, crazy ride. And so I thought I would do a little prep, and then I started getting things out like my leather bracelets and my leather earrings and then my entire box of leather. And then I looked down at my Apple Watch and I started craving some new leather on my Apple Watch. And this is what you can tell. I made this, don't look at my activity level yet today. I made this watch band a couple of years ago, so you can tell that this leather has gotten slightly wet and worn, probably sweat, water, who knows. Lots of things on it in the last 2 years, and I was like, oh, you know what, I could make a new one today. It could use a fresh leather band, and I thought maybe my viewers would like to know how to do that, and maybe you would like to see how I make a new leather band for my Apple Watch. New printer cartridge. Got it. Like so many of my tutorials, I really like to just take what I already have and what I know that I like and make it a little bit more customized to what I prefer, such as making it out of leather because that's my super favorite kind of material to use. It's the leather that I purchase is from a local source or from our own deer hides, and I really love the way that it fits and it feels. It's like wearing butter, and I can't even tell I'm wearing it sometimes, which is the point, right, of like things that we put on. We want them to be comfortable. This tutorial is really for any band that you can remove from the face of the watch and then replace back with a new band. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I made my very own watch band for my Apple Watch. It was very simple. You can get as creative as you want with what this watch band looks like, and all you need is 3 pieces of actual hardware in order to complete this project. So what I did was I just purchased a very inexpensive on clearance Apple Watch band that fit my Apple Watch, and I took it apart because it was ugly and I paid like $3 for it, and all I really was after was the hardware. So I wanted this buckle and I wanted these inserts that connect to my Apple Watch. So I basically took the band off and I threw the band away because I knew it wasn't something I wanted, and then I kept this hardware. Here's a little tip if you've never taken this hardware on or off. There is a little button on the bottom side of your Apple Watch. It's really kind of hard to see. It's just this little oval button, and you can kind of push in here and it releases the band. I push in here with my fingernail, and then it just releases the hardware from the actual watch, and you can just continue to slide that out like that. And then you've got these 2 pieces and the buckle. So I'm gonna take the other part off. Now, I made this leather band watch about 2 years ago, and you can kind of see how it just needs to be updated and freshened up a bit. I really love the way that this leather feels. It's super buttery and soft, but as it advances in its life, I've gotten it wet, probably sweaty, and the leather just doesn't hold up. I mean, it looks weathered, which is kind of fun too. I just wanted something fresh as long as I had my leather out and I was working on some other leather projects. So anyway, here's the Apple Watch, and I'm just gonna put that away for now. And And then I'm just gonna look, what I do is look very closely at how the existing watch band was put together and just mimic that idea. So what I've done is I've got a bunch of leather here. You could also use fabric, you could use cotton, you could use whatever's comfortable to you. I just really like this tobacco colored leather that I have here. I had a bunch of leathers, but this is the one I really wanted it to be. So I just took my existing watch band. I guess I didn't throw them away. I kept them to use as pattern pieces. And I'm just gonna do the same with my existing watch band. So here are my 2 existing pieces. This piece was attached here. And I just cut that off with the scissors. And I'm gonna do the same on this side to release that little piece of hardware that I want. Okay, I'm just gonna pay attention to where the folds are, where the little loop is here, and then where my buckle is. So before you tear the existing watch band all apart, pay attention to how it's assembled so that you know how to assemble the new one. Okay, so that's like that. And there are 2 sides to this hardware. So you can see the side where there's 2 black pieces and then a silver piece in the middle. And then on the other side is 3 black areas. And this one in the middle is raised. And that's the one we're pushing on when we want to release it from the Apple Watch. I'm just paying really close attention to how this is assembled. Don't tear it apart too hastily because you want to make sure that it gets put back just the same way that it fits right into here. So I've already used my pieces to cut out some new leather, some fresh leather, and this is this side. And now keep in mind that you're going to need to sew a fold, so I leave a little bit of length to fold over the hardware piece, and then I'll be able to have some extra to sew to that so that we're attaching here. So I'm just gonna do that, and keep in mind where my bottom is and where my top is. So what I'm doing is just pulling this and this is where I'm going to be sewing the seam. Now you'll also want to make sure that this fits, and the band of the original band fits you. You want to try it on to make sure it fits you. If you want it longer or shorter, however you feel, just make sure it's comfortable before you start sewing. And you can always cut this, you know, so if it's too long on your wrist, this is just leather, so you can just cut it and it's not going to fray and you don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to get my other piece ready before I take this to my sewing machine. I got that piece ready. So again, with the other side, I'm just wrapping it around, making sure that I've got enough space here to make a stitch line. And then I'm going to take off my buckle on this side. Now, as you take your buckle off, note how it's assembled and that you're going to need to poke a little hole in here where this part is. The leather on these bands also stretches, so I figured that out the first time I made this, that it stretches, and it got looser on me as the time went on. So this time around, I'm gonna make it actually a little bit tighter than I think it needs to be, and then eventually it will too stretch out. I'm also going to insert this little band here. Now, if you didn't happen to have leather, you could also take apart a purse. You could use a lot of different resources to get to some nice leather. I just happen to have some on hand because I've been working with jewelry and making bracelets and earrings and that kind of thing. And I know it's been one of my most favorite materials to work with. I just happen to have that on hand. It's a little bit of glue. I just have tacky glue. Now this is all going to get sewed together, but to keep this little band secure here, I'm just kind of using my other one to measure its whereabouts, keeping in mind that I want to make it a little bit tighter this time around. And I made this little loop part just long enough so that it would meet together and it doesn't overlap, adding additional bulk to my already thick leather. So that's where I did that. So you can see how now I've got a nice loop there to put my other end through. Alright, so next, I'm just adding a hole where I know my little piece here is going to go. Alright, so then I've got my little piece through my hole here, and I'm just going to tuck this through. This is my flap that's gonna now go over top of my little band there, and it's gonna sit right there, and this is where I'm going to stitch. All right, now that I've got my machine threaded with the thread that I want to have for my band, I'm just going to make a simple stitch right where my flap goes over to attach that. Like many of my handmade projects, keep in mind that you are making this and not a machine. So it's not going to be perfect, but actually that's the best part of it, is that you made it for yourself or for a loved one, and it's made from your two hands. I'm just going to go back over and make sure that my edge is nice and secure. You can do this a couple times if you want, just to make sure that it's nice and secure. Just trim off your edges here. Again, it's not perfect, but it's what I love. Okay, I'm drying this. You could do it twice if you felt that you wanted to do that. I'm going to do that on mine. And I left this to be long enough so that I had something to hang on to when I was putting it through the sewing machine. But now that I'm done, I'll probably trim that a little bit closer. All right, next, time to sew this together. So I'm just gonna fold that over top of the band and make sure that I have plenty of room beyond that, so I'm not sewing this down because I want to put my band through there. And keep in mind that this will stretch, so if it looks tiny now, that's okay because it's going to stretch. So the next thing I'm going to do after I've got my pieces sewn, I'll show you again, is to put this all back together. So, not an emergency. All right, so you see the 3 little black dots are what goes up, and the part with the little silver in the middle, that goes down. So on like this, and on like that. And I'm just gonna try it on. I'm gonna get it nice and snug, and then I'm just gonna mark with the little piece here where my hole is gonna go so that I know it's gonna be nice and tight. Over time with my other band, my previous band, I did have to make holes that made it tighter, and that's just something you might have to do with leather as well, but just know that it will stretch. I'm gonna start out with it pretty tight just because I know that it will stretch. So from there, I'm gonna undo this. I'm just gonna use my little scissors to kind of create a hole in my leather. You don't want to make the hole too big, but just big enough to put this little peg through. I'm just gonna put this through the band. Like that. So that's what the underside looks like. If this gets kind of long on you, you can trim it off. You can make whatever kind of design at the end that you like. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. And just like every other Hardy Soul leather item, so I've got my little Hardy Soul stamp right on the end of my little wood burning tool. Just gonna press it into like that. Now I have a new, fresh leather band that is so comfortable. So much so that I've done it 2 or 3 times now because I just like the way the leather feels. So yeah, here we have it. I like to see the sun rays of my Hardy Soul logo. Super soft, super comfortable. Not probably the best at getting wet, as you can see how this leather has done when it's gotten sweaty or wet. But for as easy as it is to replace this leather watch band, I'm cool with getting it sweaty and wet and just using it in an everyday instance because that's just what's comfortable to me, and that's how I wear my watch. So thanks so much for joining me today while I make my new leather Apple Watch band. I'm so glad that you came along. I hope the tutorial was helpful and that gives you a little bit of inspiration to create your very own Apple Watch band. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great week.